3.7 Equations of lines in a coordinate plane. To graph and write linear equations. This is a lot of algebra stuff that we're going to be doing in this lesson. First, we have our slope. Slope is always indicated by cursive M. It's always going to be your rise over run, and the equation would be your y's subtracted divided by your x subtracted. The key here is you have to make sure that your x2's, y2's match up, and x1, y1 match up. We would use this thinking process when we're given a graph. We would use this equation when we're given 2 points. So here we're given a graph, so we're going to use rise over run. First, I'm finding the slope of line B. So here's my line B. Then you want to find 1 point on that line. So here is 1 point on that line. And I want to do rise over run. So I'm going to find a second point on that line. Here's another point on that line. So my rise would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's a positive 4 because I'm moving up. And my run would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This would be a negative 5 because I'm moving to the left. Anytime you move left or down, it's negative. Up or right, it's positive. So my slope here is my rise over run. That is also equal to negative 4 over 5. So right now I want you to pause the video and see if you can find the slope of line D by yourself. Here's my line D, so I want to find 2 points on that slope. Here's a point and here's a point. So my rise would be 1, 2, that would be a negative 2, and my run would be 0. I don't move left or right. Now when I write out this fraction of negative 2 over 0, that's not possible. You can never have 0 on the bottom of the fraction, so this would be an undefined slope. So here are my 4 different types of slopes that I can have. I can have a positive slope. When you're thinking of positive slope, you should think of a little man, and he's walking up a mountain. That's positive. Or else, if it's a negative slope, you have a little man, and they're walking down the mountain. 0 slope would be if the little man was just walking straight on a road. And an undefined slope would be, my little man is going to hit the ground. We have 2 different formats for slope and equations written with slope. We have slope-intercept form. Make sure to write this down along with this equation right here. Slope-intercept form is y equals m, where m is the slope, x plus b, and b is the y-intercept. The other form we have is point-slope form. Point-slope form. So that's this equation right here. So you're going to have y minus y1 equals m, in parentheses, x minus x1. Now the thing for both of these equations, my x and y with no sub, x and y, I always say it as x and y. So now I'm going to use those 2 equations to help me graph. So right now, I'm given the equation in the format of y equals mx plus b. Remember, m is equal to your slope, and b is equal to your y-intercept. The first thing you want to do is plot your y-intercept. So my y-intercept is at a positive 1. Here's my y-axis. So I go to my origin and I move up 1. So now that I plot my point, my second step is to use slope that you know to find another point. You should write this down if you are unsure how to do this, these 2 steps. So from this point, I'm going to move my slope of 2/3. So my rise is 2, so I'm going to move up 2. My run is 3. 1, 2, 3. So this is where my second point would go. You only need 2 points. However, you could do 3 points if you wish. I could also say that negative 2 over negative 3 is the same thing as 2 over 3. So from this point, I'm going to go down 2, and over 3, and that would be a third point that I could use. So now I have points, and I connect those points, and here I have graphed my equation, again by using my plot of the y-intercept first, and then I use my slope to find my second point. Here I have another equation. You could simplify this so it says y equals and use that information to graph, just like the previous problem. Or else, this is in point slope form, so that's in the format of y minus y1 is equal to mx minus x1. So now using that information, I could figure out what I have here. So I know my slope is going to be 2, so I'm going to write out my slope is going to be a negative 2. That's the same thing as negative 2 over 1. And I have a point, x1 and y1. So my x1, y1. So my x1 would be a negative 3. Because in my original equation, it shows a negative, but in my problem, it shows a positive. So that's the opposite. And my y would be a positive 3. Now, just like before, I would want to plot this point first. So I'm going to start at the origin and go over negative 3 and up 3. Once I have that point, then I use my slope to figure out my second point. So my rise is a negative 2, so down 2, and a run of 1, so positive 1. Again, if you want to do more, just so that you have more dots, you can. You do not have to. You only need 2 dots to form a line. And there is my graph of the equation above. Here I have to write my equation in a line. You should always try to write it and simplify so it is in this format. Y equals mx plus b. Remember, m is my slope, b is my y-intercept. So my first problem, I have my slope, and I'm given my y-intercept. So I really just had to plug in the things I know. So y would be equal to my slope is 3, 3 is my m, x, my y-intercept is a negative 5. I could either put negative 5 or plus a negative 5. Either way, those are the same answer. For the second one, I'm given a point and a slope, so I want to use my point-slope form first. So that's my y minus y1 is equal to mx minus x1. So I'm going to plug in that information. So y is going to subtract 5 is equal to 2 and x minus negative 1. This becomes a plus plus. Again, you want to make sure to write it so it looks like slope-intercept form. So I have to simplify. So I'm going to first distribute my 2. Y minus 5 is equal to 2x plus 2, and then add 5 to both sides. Y is equal to 2x plus 7. This would be my final answer. So for this next problem, I'm given a graph, and I need to write the equation in both slope-intercept and point-slope form. So the first thing I'm going to do is figure out what the slope is. So I have 2 points that are given right here. I'm going to figure out what the rise of run is. So my rise is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My run is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to write that up in the right-hand corner. M is equal to 6 over 5. When you write in point slope form, it doesn't matter which point you use. I can use either the negative 2, negative 1, or else I can use 3 and 5. I'm going to choose to use the negative 2, negative 1. For my first answer for point slope form, I'm going to have y minus negative 1, because that's my y1, that's going to be turned into plus plus, is equal to 6/5 is my slope, and then x minus my negative 2, which also becomes plus plus. So that's my answer to my first one. It's in point slope form. Now I'm going to use that equation to help solve for slope-intercept. So my first step is to distribute my 6/5. So I'm going to have y plus 1 is equal to 6/5 x plus 12/5. How did it get the 12/5? Well, 6 over 5 times 2 over 1, you multiply across. So 6 times 2 is 12, and 5 times 1 is 5. And now I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides of my equation. So I have y is going to be equal to 6/5 x plus 7/5, and that would be my slope-intercept form. That is all for today. Make sure you fill out the Google Doc form and submit your answers.